From the teenager caught in the crossfire of a deadly drug feud to the notorious cartel hitwoman captured and tortured by rival factions, the brutality of cartels in dealing with their enemies is both ruthless and unrelenting. In this video, I will be revealing the shocking details of the times when teenagers messed with cartels and paid the price. Keene Mulready Woods. As a teenager, Keene Mulready Woods found himself drawn into the world of petty crime. In no time, he turned to the streets of Drogheda, where rival factions fought for control over the lucrative drug trade. Soon, Keene became entangled in the infamous Drogheda feud. The Drogheda feud was a violent conflict between two rival factions of a criminal organization that had split. It involved brutal tactics such as petrol bombings, pipe bombings, and intimidation. Keene was associated with one of these factions. On the 12th of January 2020, Keene was last seen at St. Dominic's Bridge in Drogheda. Earlier that evening, he had called his mother, asking her to leave money out for his taxi ride home. Unfortunately, that was the last time his family would hear from him. On January 13th, 2020, a local man found a sports bag at a junction. Inside were human remains, later identified as Keene's. 2 days later, on the morning of January 15th, more remains, believed to be Keene's head and hands, were discovered in a burned-out car on Trinity Terrace in Drumcondra. The investigation into his death revealed that Keene's murder was intended as a warning to rival factions. Keene's death was as a result of gang rivalry, but this next teenager intentionally put himself in harm's way. Juan Luis Lagunas. At age 15, Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales made a decision to leave his hometown Sinaloa. He dropped out of high school and moved to Culiacan. It was here that he adopted the nickname El Pirata de Culiacan and a new persona. Lagunas attained fame on social media by showcasing a reckless lifestyle. He posted videos of himself downing bottles of beer and whiskey with abandon, and they quickly went viral. His social media was filled with pictures of guns, scantily clad women, and luxury cars. Despite being underage, Lagunas flaunted his disregard for the law and societal norms. For El Pirata de Culiacan, there were no limits. In a shocking video, an intoxicated Lagunas made a decision to insult El Mencho, the feared leader of the new generation cartel of Jalisco. The video, which quickly spread across the internet, captured Lagunas insulting one of Mexico's most dangerous drug lords. The consequences of Lagunas' reckless words were brutal. On a seemingly ordinary Monday night, he was partying with friends at a bar in Jalisco when a group of armed men stormed into the place. In a hail of gunfire, Lagunas was shot between 15 and 18 times, instantly ending his life. Lagunas' bad decision led him to an early grave, but this next teenager was a victim of circumstance. Maria Susana Flores Games. From a young age, Maria Susana Flores Games was captivated by the world of beauty and glamour. Her striking features paved the way for her entry into the world of beauty pageants. In February 2012, Maria Susana's dedication and hard work paid off when she was crowned Woman of Sinaloa. The win brought her into the spotlight, capturing the attention of both the media and the public. Despite her promising future, Maria Susana's life took an unexpected and tragic turn. It is unclear how she became entangled with the criminal underworld, but her association with the Sinaloa cartel would eventually lead to her untimely demise. On a fateful day in November 2012, 20-year-old Maria Susana was traveling with a gang of drug traffickers when they became involved in a violent confrontation with soldiers. The shootout, which took place in the rugged terrain of northern Mexico, ended in tragedy. Maria Susana's body was discovered near an assault rifle on a rural road. It was later revealed that she was with the gang, but her exact role in the shootout remains unclear. Up next is a young man whose social media fame put him on the radar of the CJN. Fofo Marquez. Rodolfo Marquez, better known as Fofo Marquez, is a famous TikToker who entertained his massive following by sharing videos of luxury cars, designer clothes, and his rich lifestyle. But on one particular day, Marquez took things too far. He decided to block one of Guadalajara's busiest bridges, the Matute Remus Bridge, with his fleet of high-end sports cars as a display of wealth. That fateful Thursday, Marquez and his team arrived at the bridge in a convoy of luxury vehicles. The cars were positioned across the lanes of the bridge to block the traffic. Marquez stepped out of his car and began recording the event and narrating his actions. The video captured the luxury cars parked across the bridge, with Marquez and his friends dancing and celebrating their audacious feat. When the video hit TikTok, it quickly went viral, and in no time, the social media platform was filled with comments condemning Fofo's actions. In response, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel released a chilling video. The video, which quickly spread online, showed masked men delivering a threatening message to the TikToker. The cartel warned Marquez that if he dared to set foot in Guadalajara or any other area under their control, he would face dire consequences. Like Fofo, this next youngster was a TikTok star, but her fame soon led to her death. Sabrina Duran Montero. Sabrina's journey into the world of social media fame began behind the cold walls of a Chilean prison. She had been convicted for her involvement in the drug trade. With a smartphone smuggled into her cell, she discovered TikTok and began to create content. Her videos, which often showed her dancing, quickly gained traction, earning her thousands of followers. After her release, Sabrina became a full-fledged influencer, using her platform to showcase Chilean narco culture. It wasn't long before her ties to the narco world put her in the crosshairs of both law enforcement and rival gangs, a danger that ultimately cost her life. Sabrina's life came to a sudden end in broad daylight. While sitting in her car, masked gunmen ambushed her, firing multiple shots and killing her instantly. Up next is another person who promoted narco culture on social media and paid dearly for it. Kehlani Boo. With over 59,000 followers on Instagram and a staggering 136,000 on Facebook, Kehlani Boo was not just a social media influencer, but a symbol of a lifestyle that many aspired to have. Kehlani's social media posts contained high-end fashion, exotic locations, and luxury vehicles. She often shared images of herself behind the wheel of sleek cars like BMWs and Ford Mustangs, but that was not all. Some of her most talked-about content featured firearms. In one striking post, Kehlani posed with a gun aimed directly at the camera. Another showed an assault rifle with bullets arranged to spell her name. As Kehlani's following grew, so did the whispers about her connections to the notorious La Union Tepito cartel. This feared criminal organization is known for its ruthless operations in Mexico City. On July 17, 2019, Kehlani's life came to a tragic end. She was gunned down near a bar in the municipality of Nezahualcóyotl, a bustling area on the outskirts of Mexico City. Investigators believed that she was killed by La Union Tepito and sought to uncover any connections between the influencer and the cartel. Kehlani's connection to the cartel was never confirmed, but this next person was a well-known cartel member. Jocelyn Alejandra Nino. Jocelyn Alejandra. Nino was recruited into the Gulf Cartel as a young woman. The Gulf Cartel, known for recruiting women for their innocent appearances, found in Nino a valuable asset. Her slim physique earned her the nickname La Flaca. The name aligned with the cartel's culture and the worship of Our Lady of Holy Death, a figure admired by many in the criminal underworld. Nino operated in the shadows for some time, but she became famous on the 5th of January 2015 when a photo of her posing with a firearm surfaced on social media. This image identified her as a Gulf Cartel hitwoman based in Rio Bravo. Despite the risks, Nino embraced her role and became a key player in the ongoing conflict between her faction Los Ciclones and the rival group Los Metros. As tensions escalated in early 2015, the infighting between these factions of the Gulf Cartel intensified. Nino became a target for Los Metros, who sought to weaken their enemies. Between April 12th and 13, 2015, Nino and two accomplices were captured by Los Metros. On the 13th of April, Mexican authorities in Matamoros discovered Nino's dismembered body inside an ice cooler abandoned at a Soriana parking lot. Alongside her remains were those of another dismembered female and a decapitated man, both believed to be members of Los Ciclones. The bodies bore signs of torture, suggesting that the victims were tortured to extract information about their criminal activities. Up next is a person whose life was cut short in the most horrific way. Gabriela Lima Santana. One fateful day in 2021, municipal workers in Capao da Canoa unearthed a suitcase. Upon investigation, authorities discovered that it contained the dismembered remains of a woman. Authorities worked tirelessly to identify the victim and ultimately confirmed that the remains belonged to Gabriela Lima Santana through her fingerprints and distinctive tattoos, one of which was linked to a local gang. Although Gabriela was first reported missing on March 13, 2021, it is believed that she vanished much earlier. Following the discovery of her remains, the investigation took a different turn. Forensic experts carefully examined the suitcase and discovered it contained saws and knives believed to be used in the horrific crime, along with several rocks. The presence of rocks in the suitcase suggested an attempt to conceal the evidence by sinking it. The investigation took a shocking turn once again when police received a disturbing video. The footage, captured inside a bathroom, showed a woman being brutally hacked by a smiling assailant. The video became an important piece of evidence, and it helped authorities track down and arrest two suspects, including a 23-year-old who allegedly recorded the gruesome footage. Meanwhile, two additional suspects remained at large. Up next is someone who chose to betray his cartel and paid with his life. El Cholo. El Cholo, whose real name was Carlos Enrique Sanchez, was born into a world where crime was a way of life. He quickly rose through the ranks, earning the trust of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, the feared leader of the CJN. However, as El Cholo's influence grew, so did his ambitions. He became discontented and sought more power and independence. Despite this dissatisfaction, El Cholo appeared loyal to El Mencho, at least on the surface. Beneath it all, he was planning a betrayal. Behind closed doors, El Cholo began to secretly forge alliances with rival factions, seeking to break out of the CJN and form his own cartel. He then orchestrated a series of strategic attacks against CJN operations, aiming to weaken their hold and strengthen his position. When El Mencho and other members of the CJN learned of El Cholo's betrayal, the cartel unleashed its full fury, deploying hit squads to hunt him down. He was captured, tortured, and brutally executed. His body was then left in public as a warning to others who might dare to betray the CJN. Up next is someone who was lured into a trap that led to her demise. Paulina Areola Perez. In her day, Paulina Areola Perez had a social media presence that showcased designer clothes, exotic vacations, and high-end parties. At the time, she was in a relationship with Alexis Martinez, one of the leaders of the notorious La Union Tepito cartel. Despite the dangers associated with his world, Paulina was drawn to him. The couple traveled to exotic destinations together, taking pictures of their adventures and posting them on social media. Their lavish lifestyle was funded by Martinez's criminal activities, including credit card cloning and other illegal ventures. Paulina's life took a tragic turn when Martinez was assassinated, leaving her with no money. In the wake of her lover's death, Paulina turned to selling shoes online, unaware of the dangers that lurked. On June 9, 2021, Paulina was lured into a deadly trap. A supposed client expressed interest in purchasing shoes and arranged to meet her in Mexico City. Unknown to Paulina, this meeting was a setup. As she sat in her Honda pickup truck with her friend Eduardo Arturo Trejo, waiting for the client, gunmen attacked. They released a hail of bullets that left Paulina with 9 gunshot wounds and Eduardo with 2. Paramedics and police arrived swiftly, but the damage was done. Both Paulina and Eduardo succumbed to their injuries in the hospital. Unlike Paulina, this next person had no idea of the danger she was about to walk into. Daniela Patino. Daniela Patino, a vibrant 22-year-old with dreams of making it big as a vlogger, left her family with a heart full of hope and excitement. She had been offered a job opportunity that seemed too good to pass up, a position with a restaurant chain in Spain. Daniela's journey took her first to Guatemala. However, within days of her arrival, she started sending frantic messages to her family. She informed them that her life was in danger and that she suspected she was being forced into prostitution. Daniela provided specific details about her location, urging her family to report the place in Zone 10 of Guatemala on the road to El Salvador if anything happened to her. Unfortunately, she was eventually killed, and her body was found naked and badly decomposed a few days later on the serene beaches of Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Her identity was confirmed by a distinctive tattoo Y that read, "Ineffable." Investigations began immediately as the authorities wanted to find those responsible for her death. The breakthrough came with the arrest of Jonathan N., a notorious figure known as the Panther. Jonathan was the leader of the Los Pelonis gang, a gang that is linked to the infamous Sinaloa cartel and is said to have had a hand in Daniela's death. Up next is a person whose dedication to journalism has made her a target of cartels. Azucena Uresti. Azucena Uresti was a prominent news anchor for Milenio Television and Radio Formula. She carved a niche for herself with her unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth. Her work consistently shed light on the dangerous realities of the Tierra Caliente region, a hotbed of cartel activity and violence. In her work, Uresti covered the ongoing conflicts involving powerful drug cartels, including the CJNG. In August 2021, the CJN released a video threatening Uresti's life. In the video, masked men brandishing automatic rifles delivered a chilling message from El Mencho, the leader of the CJN. The speaker accused Uresti of biased reporting and claimed she had taken money from local gangs for favorable coverage. The video goes further, threatening her life and vowing to find her wherever she may be. In response to this alarming situation, Mexican authorities took decisive action. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador publicly condemned the threats against Uresti. Mexico is considered one of the most dangerous countries for journalists, with numerous reporters facing harassment, threats, and even murder. Up next is another fearless journalist who was not deterred by cartel threats. Janeth Bedoya Lima. On the morning of May 25, 2000, Gineth Bedoya Lima, a brave journalist, set out for La Modelo prison in Bogotá. She was promised an interview with a paramilitary leader known as the Baker. Accompanied by an editor and a photographer from El Espectador, she arrived at the prison, unaware of the nightmare that awaited her. As they awaited clearance to enter the prison, Bedoya got separated from her colleagues, and that's when the nightmare began. In the blink of an eye, Bedoya vanished, leaving her companions in a state of panic. She was seized by 3 men, drugged, and forced into a car. Her captors drove her to a remote location, several hours away from the city, where the true horror of her ordeal began to unfold. In captivity, Bedoya faced unimaginable brutality. Her captors, who claimed allegiance to the feared paramilitary leader Carlos Castano, subjected her to torture and mistreatment. As they attacked her, they instructed her to pay attention, declaring their actions as a message to the press in Colombia. Bedoya's captors then threatened her colleague Ignacio Gomez, vowing to cut Gomez into tiny pieces. The threat was so severe that Gomez fled the country just 6 days after the attack. After enduring hours of torture, Bedoya was left tied up in a garbage pile near a desolate road. She managed to crawl out of the refuse where a taxi driver discovered her. With his help, she was transported to safety, her ordeal finally coming to an end. Like Bedoya, this next person spoke the truth about cartels and criminals and was punished for it. Leslie Ann Pamela Montenegro. Leslie Ann Pamela Montenegro's YouTube channel, El Salon TV, was a bold and lively platform where she played the character Nana Pelucas. With her flamboyant wigs and oversized glasses, Nana Pelucas became an iconic figure, known for her sharp wit and satirical take on the pressing issues of Acapulco. Through her channel, Montenegro tackled a wide range of topics, from cultural events to the gritty realities of local politics. She fearlessly addressed the rampant corruption that plagued the region, often mocking and criticizing local officials who were entangled in dubious activities. Montenegro's approach was both engaging and enlightening. She used humor as a tool to disarm her audience, making complex and often dangerous topics more accessible. However, as her influence grew, so did the risks. Montenegro received numerous threats, both direct and indirect, warning her to cease her investigations. Yet her commitment to her cause never wavered. On February 5, 2018, Montenegro was sitting in her restaurant, a Todos Los Santos, with her husband when 2 unidentified assailants entered and approached her. Without uttering a word, they fired multiple shots at Montenegro, leaving her dead in a pool of her own blood. Up next is a person whose life was cut short while attempting to do the right thing. Alejandro Arcos. The murder of Alejandro Arcos, the new mayor of Chilpancingo, is proof of the ongoing violence in Guerrero province. Arcos, a promising young leader, had barely begun his tenure as mayor when his life was brutally cut short, leaving the community in shock and mourning. Arcos was sworn in as mayor on September 30, 2024. His victory, after 3 attempts, showed his resilience and dedication to his community. He had campaigned on a platform of peace and renewal, promising to transform Chilpancingo into a city that its residents could be proud of. However, just 6 days into his term, Arcos' life was violently ended. His severed head was discovered on top of a pickup truck in the Villas del Roble neighborhood, while the rest of his body was found inside a car. Arcos' murder is believed to be tied to the violent turf war between rival drug gangs, the Ardilos and the Tlacos. These gangs have been locked in a deadly battle for control, with Chilpancingo serving as one of their primary battlegrounds. The violence has reached such a level that the Ardilos gang once organized a demonstration, hijacked an armored government car, and took 10 police officers hostage after their leaders were arrested for drugs and weapons possession. Arcos' murder is not an isolated incident. He is, in fact, the 3rd mayor to be killed in the state this year, following the deaths of Salvador Villalba Flores of Copala and Acacio Flores Guerrero of Malinaltepec. Up next is a Mexican mayor who escaped the cold arms of death for as long as she could. Maria Santos Gorostieta. In 2008, Maria Santos Gorostieta made the bold decision to run for mayor of Tiquicheo, a small town in the state of Michoacan. As mayor of her town, Maria resolved to confront the drug cartels head-on. However, that decision put a target on her back. The first assassination attempt on Maria's life occurred in October 2009, just a year after she assumed office. Maria and her husband, Jose Sanchez, were traveling through the town of El Limone when gunmen ambushed their vehicle. By the end of the attack, Maria was injured, but her husband was fatally fatally wounded. Maria miraculously survived the incident. As she lay in the hospital, struggling to come to terms with the loss of her husband, Maria's resolve only grew stronger. She returned to her duties as mayor, more determined than ever to fulfill her promise to the people of Tiquicheo. The second assassination attempt on Maria Santos Gorostieta's life happened in January 2010. This time, the ambush occurred on a desolate road between the states of Guerrero and Michoacán as Maria was en route to a meeting. Gunmen emerged from the shadows and opened fire on her car. Maria was struck by 3 bullets, sustaining serious injuries. Her brother and a reporter accompanying her were also wounded in the attack. Despite the persistent attacks, Maria continued to serve and remained steadfast in her mission until the end of her tenure. In November 2012, Maria was kidnapped in broad daylight as she drove her daughter to school. The gunmen forcibly removed her from her white van as she begged them to spare her daughter. Unfortunately, that was the last time she was seen alive. Her body was discovered in a roadside ditch in the town of San Juan Tararameo. Maria was kidnapped in broad daylight. This next person was assassinated in the same way. Abel Murrieta. Abel Murrieta Gutierrez was a man of conviction, known for his dedication to justice and reform. Born and raised in Sonora, Mexico, Murrieta pursued a career in law, eventually rising to prominence as the state attorney general. As he transitioned into politics, Murrieta's commitment to change remained steadfast. He announced his candidacy for mayor of Cajeme, a municipality in Sonora, with a vision to restore safety and integrity to the region. In the weeks leading up to his assassination, Abel Murrieta was fully engaged in his campaign for the mayoral seat in Cajeme. On May 13, 2021, Murrieta was on the streets of Cajeme, distributing flyers and speaking with constituents. As he engaged with the public, a group of gunmen approached with deadly intent. In a matter of moments, sounds of gunfire filled the air. Murrieta was struck down in broad daylight, leaving onlookers in shock and disbelief. The immediate aftermath of the attack was chaotic. Bystanders scrambled for cover, while others rushed to Murrieta's side in a desperate attempt to save him. Despite their efforts, his wounds were fatal, and Murrieta succumbed to his injuries. Investigations into the case revealed that he was murdered by cartel gunmen. Up next is a leader who spoke against cartels and was killed for it. Minerva Perez. Minerva Perez was well respected in the Mexican fishing industry. Her passion for the ocean and its preservation led her to become a prominent figure in the state's fishing industry chamber. At that time, the fishing industry in Baja California was under attack by powerful drug cartels that saw an opportunity to exploit its lucrative potential. These criminal organizations infiltrated the sector, imposing protection payments on fishing boats, distributors, and even restaurants. Minerva recognized the threat posed by the cartels and was determined to confront it head-on. She spoke at industry meetings and public forums, exposing the damage they caused to legitimate businesses and the local economy. Minerva's outspoken nature quickly made her a target for the cartels, and she began receiving threats. Despite this, she refused to back down. On July 8, 2024, Minerva's life was brutally cut short. Unidentified gunmen ambushed her in broad daylight, riddling her with bullets in what state prosecutor Maria Elena Andrade described as a direct assassination attack. Just like Minerva, this next person decided to stand against cartels and face their wrath. Jesus Manuel Lara Rodriguez. Jesus Manuel Lara Rodriguez's tenure as mayor of Guadalupe, Chihuahua, was a period defined by courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Elected in 2006, Lara stepped into a role filled with challenges, as the town of Guadalupe was already under the influence of drug cartel violence. The Mexico-U.S. border region, notorious for its smuggling routes, had become a battleground for control among rival cartels, and Guadalupe was caught in the crossfire. Lara was determined to reclaim his town from the grip of these criminal organizations and restore a sense of safety and normalcy to its people. He was relentless in his efforts to combat the cartels. He worked tirelessly to forge alliances with other mayors in the region, recognizing that a united front was essential in the fight against organized crime. Lara's fight against the drug lords was not without personal risk. He received numerous death threats, yet he remained undeterred. On June 19, 2010, the unthinkable happened. As Lara walked to his car outside his Ciudad Juarez home, he was ambushed by 3 gunmen who shot him in the back in front of his wife and child. The assassination was a brutal and calculated act designed to send a message to those who dared to stand against the cartels. Up next is someone who, just like Lara, paid the ultimate price for doing the right thing. DEA agent tortured. In October 2023, Nestor Isidro Perez Salas, aka El Nini, orchestrated the kidnapping of a DEA confidential source, along with 10 other victims in Mexico. This group included a U.S. citizen and a 13-year-old boy, individuals whom Perez Salas believed were connected to the confidential source. The motive behind this chilling act was retaliation. The confidential source had provided crucial information to the DEA, aiding in the investigation of Perez Salas and his associates in the Southern District of New York. As a way to send a message to others who might consider cooperating with law enforcement, Perez Salas ordered their abduction. The victims were subjected to unimaginable horrors. Under Perez Salas's direction, his sicarios employed military-grade weapons to carry out their gruesome tasks. The kidnapped victims were tortured, interrogated, and ultimately murdered in cold blood. Among the 8 victims who lost their lives were the DEA confidential source and the young boy, whose deaths pointed out the indiscriminate nature of Perez Salas's brutality. This act of violence was not an isolated incident, but rather a continuation of a pattern of ruthless behavior that had defined Perez Salas's tenure within the Sinaloa cartel. Over the years, dozens of people have paid the price for messing with cartels. Check out any of our other videos by clicking the cards on your screen.